Hello, and welcome to the Season 1 finale of Rogue Reviews, Episode 10. We always try to do something special for the season finale, so here it is, Lords of Waterdeep. This is an utterly amazing game. If you have not had the privilege of playing this game, you should definitely try as soon as possible to either buy it or play it at someone else's table. It is an amazing worker placement game. For people who are not used to this type of game, this is a brilliant introduction to what this type of game can offer in terms of strategy, complexity, fulfillment, all sorts. It is so enjoyable. In terms of theme, it is quite liberally doused in the theme of D&D in terms of Waterdeep, in terms of this sort of already built world that you can basically adventure in terms of Dungeons and Dragons. But if you know nothing about that, you can still enjoy this game because it is basically a fantasy adventure of going around building buildings, securing resources, completing quests, gaining fame and glory, and influencing things behind the scenes as a lord or lady of Waterdeep. So, for example, you could be Perigirian the Paladistinian. You could be Israel Aranath. Please forgive the hideous mispronunciations, but the idea is these are your secret victory goals. These will make a massive difference to your end of game scores. They will also affect how you play the game because you're trying to go along either completing a certain type of quest or, for example, influencing other people or, for example, building buildings. And along the way, this will really shape your game. There is so much to enjoy here in terms of all the different things you can go from the absolutely incredibly beautifully designed board that holds everything in absolutely perfectly to the components, to the quests, to the wonderful artwork. There is so much gorgeous artwork on store here in terms of the different interactions between the players. Now, what you do on your turn is you take one of your available agents and you place them on one of the spaces in and around the city of Waterdeep. For example, you could visit the Field of Triumph. If you are doing so, you are basically gaining 2 orange cubes, which means you are hiring 2 warriors to help you complete a quest. These warriors will basically enter your tavern, and then you'll have them available for completing quests. Or you could go to Castle Waterdeep, if you fancy being the first player, and that is a big deal in this game, because basically in terms of who gets what first, being a first player or at least higher up in turn order counts for a lot. For example, you could visit, for example, Waterdeep Harbour and play intrigue cards. These are very, very sneaky cards that basically can either hamper other players, gain you an advantage, give additional options, gain more resources, etc. But the lovely thing about this is they're kind of an extra half a turn, because after everybody else has been resolved, you can then take away your people from Waterdeep Harbour and then place them in one of the other available places left on the board. So you get a kind of bonus half extra turn, which is great. So, what else could you do? You could visit the Builders Hall and build one of the additional buildings in place. Now, there are a certain amount of places around. For example, Blackstaff Tower, where you can hire mages. Castle Waterdeep, where you can go first. Waterdeep Harbour, where you can play sneaky advantage cards. Builders Hall, where you can build a building. The Aura's Realm Shop, where basically you can just gain gold. Beautiful gold here, lots of gold. Or in terms of 5 golds, okay? What else could you do? You go to the Plinth and hire clerics. You go to the Grinning Lion Tavern and hire rogues. If you go to Cliffwatch Inn, this is the main place where you can collect extra quests. Now, there are different types of quests to fulfill depending upon which type of adventurer they need more of. For example, warfare quests, unsurprisingly, need lots and lots of warriors, the orange cubes. Commerce needs lots and lots of gold, okay? Arcana needs mages, and let's have a look, what else have we got? We have skullduggery quests, need lots of rogues, they're the black cubes, and we have piety quests, which require lots of clerics, in other words, the white cubes. Now, depending upon the quest you've got in order, it will either be a straight resource reward for points, which is the outside track of the game, or you get cubes back, or you get certain advantages. And that's another really good element because there are things called plot quests. Now, plot quests are things that in and of themselves don't necessarily give you a massive reward. For example, this only gives you 8 victory points. However, it gives you ongoing bonuses throughout the rest of the game. Now, these are fantastic to score early on in the game because they give you a long bonus that can be applied over the remainder of the game. Now, every player has their own player board where they can basically put their available agents, they can collect their available cubes until they can basically pay them off, and they basically can keep track of the quest they've got, plus whichever Lord or Lady of Waterdeep that they currently have, which is kept secret. Now, for a certain amount of people, you can perhaps guess who their Lord or Lady in Waterdeep is, depending upon which type of quest they seem to go for lots and lots, or if they're always building buildings, or other things like that. Now, there are lots of moving parts in this game. For example, on your turn, you basically have to go for whoever is moving first, then you put your people out, then you can resolve cards. There's also a certain amount of victory point bonuses that get applied to the buildings basically, to stop them basically sitting there forever. When you build a building, it's generally an upgraded version of something that's already in play. So what basically happens is that you can take one of these with one of your colour markers and place them out as an additional place that's available for people to go to. Now, for example, if you went to the Grinning Lion Tavern, you could collect 2 rogues. If you went to the Plinth, you could collect a cleric. However, if you have the Tower of Luck, you could collect a cleric and 2 rogues. Well, this is an amazing idea. We should absolutely go there now. This gives an advantage to the person who basically collects the items, but it also gives an advantage to whoever owns the building, because they can choose from either a white cube, which is a cleric, or a black cube, which is a rogue, to have for free. So this is a really good way of gaining little advantages here and there. Because not only could you basically go there yourself, or gain the reward, you can't do both. But even if you let other people go there, you're still getting passive rewards from it, which is great. Now, in terms of the quests that are available, they are rich in lore of the game world. For example, you could placate the walking statue, you could bolster the city guard, you could basically domesticate owlbears. Such fun. Okay, or some of the games, some of the actual things specifically refer to things in the D&D world itself. And obviously, if you are familiar with whoever the foil of the Zentarim are, then of course you'll get extra enjoyment out of this game, because it's kind of almost like an inside joke a little bit, but if you're familiar with the world, it's more and more rewarding. But you don't have to be, and that's another good advantage. Yes, if you're a fantastic D&D fan, then of course you'll get a huge amount out of this game. But if you're not a D&D fan, you can still purely enjoy it for the game that it is. Now, in terms of what we really enjoy about it in our game, we love collecting the different types of quests. And in terms of the actual theme and text inside and flavour text inside the quests, that's really, really enjoyable. You love basically putting people around. Some players that we've played with prefer to play more these sneaky style intrigue cards. Some players prefer to concentrate on buildings. It works different ways. And that's another good advantage of the game, because everybody can find a style that suits them well. Okay, so in terms of the options that you've got, there are many. In terms of the different play styles you've got, there are many. In terms of the artwork, it is gorgeous. So speaking of which, let's take a bit of a closer look from a table view. All right, having a closer look view of Lords of Waterdeep. Well, what do we notice? The first thing is that the city is beautifully detailed. Obviously, when you think about just going to the Plinth, where you basically hire the clerics, it's actually a lovely, lovely detailed church, basically a cathedral in there. You can see more detail in terms of around the board. Obviously, we've got a few extra buildings in play now, but you can see that there are clear spaces for them to go. Now, there are 10 additional spaces in terms of buildings, which is what you can play in the base game. If you want to house rule it and have more, then that is an option to you. But in terms of the actual options available, that should be plenty for you. Now, in terms of the basic places where you can go, most of them either rely on specific token acquisitions, specific cube acquisitions, or in terms of things like extra effects and quests. With the Builder's Hall, it's very, very powerful, because basically these, as you've seen, not only give immediate rewards, but also long-term passive benefits. Now, there are 3 put out each turn, and along each turn, basically, there are bonus tokens put out for extra victory points, which just encourage you to buy them. So, for example, if this one is bought next turn, fantastic, great, you put a new one in. But meanwhile, then, more extra bonus victory points are awarded just to kind of try and give you an incentive to buy. So, even if it's not a particularly powerful building, then after a while, if it's got 3 or 4 victory points on, it suddenly becomes more desirable. Another good thing is, because your people are limited in terms of available, of course, beautiful meeples here to look at, then at turn 5, you each get an extra person available, which kind of kicks up the strategy. Now, this is a really good advantage in a number of ways. For a start, by then, there's normally more buildings put out in play, which means there's more actionable spaces, because you don't want to have running out of room and have nowhere to put your people.
The other good thing is it kind of increases the pace of the game because more and more and more people are coming out. And of course, the higher you get along the game, the more resources you want to be able to collect, the more quests you want to be able to collect. So the more people you have available, this becomes more of an option. Now, in terms of the base game, the highest level quest you can get is worth 25 points, which, as you can see, would give you a massive advantage. The board, outside board track goes up to 100, basically. So there's a decent score will normally be at least 100, if not more. And in fact, your tokens, when they go around, are actually added to with special 100-point bonuses, one for each colour, which is quite nice. So, for example, your black person, your green person, your red person, your blue person, etc. So, this gives you lots of options in terms of, for example, going for small reward quests that are easy to complete. This one only really needs 2 purple and 1 white, and it gets you 8 and 2 gold and an orange. Now, this might not seem a very, very fair rate of exchange because usually you can collect 2 orange at a time or 2 black, and therefore seen as more of a sort of a cheaper resource to use. However, white and purple, you can only normally collect 1 at a time, so they're a little bit harder to get. In terms of the available buildings, some of them are really exciting, because in terms of, where are we? The Zoastar allows you to basically choose a space that somebody is already on and reuse it. That's good. Some things like Jester's Court actually stockpile cubes. So, for example, you add two black cubes on this every single turn. So if you leave it alone for 3 turns, all of a sudden it's got 6 cubes on, which is very, very attractive. Some of them allow you to basically swap resources, which is very, very useful. For example, this lets you to get rid of 2 of whatever you like and replace them with 3 of whatever you like. So you could get rid of, for example, 2 easy to collect oranges and replace them with 3 hard to collect purples. Very, very good choice. The plot quests, as I've said, are very, very useful. For example, this is a piety plot quest. Initially, it's quite simple to collect. So you only need 2 whites and an orange and 2 gold. You get 8 points reward for it. But then whenever you complete another piety quest, you get a bonus 2 victory points. So if you can imagine getting this in the first few rounds of the game, and let's imagine your Lord or Lady of Waterdeep wants you to collect lots of piety rewards, then as you can imagine, you're going to get a lot of bonus points before the game is done. This is really good fun. In terms of the available ways to collect quests, this is different as well. If you go to Cliffwatch Inn, there are 3 available spaces which suit 3 different styles of play. For example, this basically lets you take a quest card and get 2 gold. Nice and simple, not really a problem there. Or you could choose to take an available quest card and get an intrigue card. Also good, especially for those that favour the more sneaky style of play. Oh, while I'm on that note, there are certain types of intrigue cards called mandatory quests. These are really, really mean. Basically, they are small, piddly little reward quests that basically offer minor rewards, mostly an inconvenience. So, for example, this person would have to stop whatever else they were doing, and they would have to focus on this quest, where they would have to give up a black and a white and an orange, and only get 2 points reward for it. So this is kind of seen as a hindrance that you would play in other characters that would have to take priority. They're mean, basically. We don't really like them to play in our game, but some people, this is an essential part of their strategy. So there you go. In terms of the overall play of the game, as I say, it lasts 8 turns, and each turn, depending on the number of players, will take you a longer or short amount of time. Really, this is going to be one of those games that eats your whole evening. So don't try and imagine playing, for example, 7 Wonders or Planet or Viceroy first and then getting this out. No. If you're playing Lords of Waterdeep, you're playing Lords of Waterdeep for the evening. So that's definitely a commitment. However, this will give you so much reward and so much enjoyable experiences for the game that you do. So this is definitely a worthy way of spending your evening. Now, in terms of the base game is, of course, utterly fantastic, and we've played it many, many times and enjoyed it lots and lots. But what happens if you want to expand things and give a bit more? Well, let's have a look. So the expansion pack for Lords of Waterdeep is the brilliantly titled Scoundrels of Skullport. Now let's see what this adds to the game. For a start, beautiful, beautiful artwork, of course. Okay, now the next thing is it gives you another player, which means you can now get up to 6 players playing at once, which is a fantastic addition. These are the Grey Hands. Spooky. So the other thing is it adds 2 minor boards. The first one is called Skullport, and the second one as those familiar to the D&D world will know, is undermounting. Now, what does this do? For example, this basically gives you a higher example of number of places to play, more intrigue cards opportunities. This one, however, introduces an entirely different mechanic, which is corruption. Now, the idea of Skullport is it is a place of ne'er-do-wells and dark dealings, etc., represented by these lovely blue skull tokens. The idea is that you can get more and more and more of what you want. However, you pay the price ultimately at the end of the game because you become evil. So, this is the skull tracker board. Each one basically starts off with 3 skulls on it, apart from the first one, which starts off with 1. And the idea is that the more corruption you take, the worse that corruption is worth. So, for example, if you're up to basically -6, then every single skull token you've got is worth -6 points at the end of the game. This is bad. So, you're going to try and take as little corruption as possible. However, sometimes it's just really, really attractive. For example, let's have a good one here. Okay. A lot of these quests, the new quests, are more valuable, but they unfortunately give you corruption. So let's have a look here. You could fund alchemical research. You need 2 mages, a cleric, and a rogue and some gold. You get 20 points, a lot of gold, but 3 corruption tokens. This is not good. So, for example, if it's earlier on in the game, these corruption tokens might only be worth, for example, 1 or 2 points each. Not a huge benefit, but if this is towards the end of the game, and these skull tokens are worth up to like 8 or 9 points each, all of a sudden this is a very, very bad choice. However, there are certain other quests in place that allow you to, for example, remove or move other skull tokens, which is a great advantage. So, the Uncovered Drow plot, lots of resources here, 18 rewards, plus you can give back 2 of your skull tokens. This is hugely powerful and hugely useful, especially towards the end of the game. Now, the quest markers on the sides here show you which extra board it's from. So if you look at the Skullport thing here, you can see the little symbol here to do with that. It's also matching on the quest cards as well, so you can help track them and sort them in against your lovely designed and perfectly gorgeous box. So, the main things to do with these Skullport quests are basically to do with either gaining corruption at the cost of lots of points, other way around, sorry, gaining lots of points at the cost of corruption, or for example, moving corruption, swapping corruption around. The other amazing thing about the Undermountain quests is that they make things far more valuable. For example, you can now collect up to 40-point quests at a time, which is a huge benefit. Of course, as you can see here, it requires 4 purple, not easy to get, plus black, plus orange, plus gold anyway. So these are the kind of quests that you'll be sort of stockpiling for a few turns to try to achieve because they're very, very hard. However, as you can see, the reward is very, very great. So it basically introduces a lot more high risk, high reward elements to the game. So let's look at a few more of the buildings that are involved. Oh goody. Okay, so you can swap one or whatever you like for 3 purple and a corruption. Give some corruption back. Take some gold, take some corruption and take a quest. Give back a corruption and take a little bit of gold. Very, very useful. So most of the ones are basically to do with either gaining corruption, losing corruption, or for example, with the Undermounting cards, gaining very valuable things. Wow. Okay, 3 purple in 1 turn, hugely powerful. Okay, you gain 4 orange and you can basically place a bonus orange on 2 other spaces. Okay, you can basically spread out those tokens and you basically give back some of your own resources, but you gain 10 victory points in one go. So these are definitely high rewards tokens as well. Some corruption things here as well. So there's lots of different options which are basically more and more advantageous to you. There are more intrigue cards. There's more lovely pieces for your things. Oh, this is another interesting advantage. Rather than basically using endless tokens, because obviously the more tokens you have, the more players you have, you're going to run out of cubes. They basically give you some little shortcuts here. If you're collecting, for example, 5 white or 5 purple, and you can basically trade them in just to keep your own deck area a bit neater. Otherwise, you will run out of tokens. Also, more playing pieces for everybody. Further pieces is good. More intrigue cards. Your little 100 marker here. Okay. So lots more to do with more intrigue cards, more rewards, giving basically higher things back and forth. Again, the artwork is just stunning in these cards. Lots of intrigue play, mentioning corruptions. Okay. So this one, for example, takes 3 corruption skulls from the corruption track and removes them from the game. This basically makes the situation worse for everybody with corruption, because it automatically, by default, knocks 3 corruption things off the track, which means everything moves on one in terms of how much negative points they're all worth. So it increases the tension in the game. It is perfectly possible to play a game without any corruption at all. You basically stay innocent and pure and score what you can do. Those people who wish to delve into darkness can basically risk more and more rewards, however it may turn around and bite them towards the end of the game. That is another amazing thing about this game, because you think you know who's won, but you're not sure, because as the game is going on, all these victory points are going round and round and round. You're getting points here, you're getting points there, lots of quests going back and forth. And yet there is a huge kicker in terms of the end of the game because of who you might have as your Lord or Lady of Waterdeep. Okay? Oh, speaking of which, there is actually another Lord of Waterdeep put in here who basically gives you more rewards depending about how much corruption you have. So let's talk end of the game. In terms of who you are, your Lord or Lady of Waterdeep gives you different advantages in terms of the end rewards. Now, you think you know exactly who's going to be in the lead, for example, around turn 7 or turn 8, but then there's a massive twist because somebody comes along and goes, well, you see, I get 4 points for every Arcana quest and every Warfare quest I've got, and I've got 3 of each, which means I've got a massive example, 24 points to add to my score. Well, someone turns around and goes, well, that's nice, but my Lord or Lady of Waterdeep gives me 4 points for every Arcana quest and Skullduggery quest. And I've completed 6 of those and 2 of those. So I've got 32 points to add, which basically bumps me into first place. And the next person goes, well, I've got, and then it kind of mixes in. The idea is that this is a lovely and really intriguing twist to the end of the game. And for example, somebody who seems to be behind can jump into the lead, even if only temporarily. So it gives a big reward for players who basically have been working hard against something the whole game long and have a chance to go, look what I did that's really amazing. So we really enjoy this. In terms of what Lords of Waterdeep can offer, it's kind of for some people the more complex game they might have tried first in terms of worker placement. Yes, there are definitely more complicated games out there. So by comparison to them, this might seem quite medium in terms of strategy, medium in terms of depth. But for players who've never played this way before, it's a welcome new departure and a new level of strategy to add on to things. So for us, this is one of the first games we got that added in this way. And then we had tried other games as well and built on it from there. But this was a sort of a revolutionary game in our house in terms of what it offered us. So, the expansion pack, it's fantastic. In terms of Undermountain, lots more options. In terms of the higher reward, higher risk quests, really, really welcome. In terms of the extra player, if you fancy being the Grey Hand, then fantastic, be the Grey Hands. In terms of the corruption, in our house, we don't often always play with the corruption tokens because while the children like playing the advantage of the extra strength values, they don't necessarily want to basically play the evil quests as they see them in terms of leaping ahead. So depending upon how your players feel about that, that might be a welcome addition, that might not, but it's still a really good addition in terms of what the game can offer to keep things fresh. Right, so let's think about all this put together. Let's sum it up. Let's give the final thoughts.
Okay then, so what do we think about Lords of Waterdeep? Well, for us, it has been one of those landmark games that really changes the way that you game. It is an excellent example of worker placement. It is an excellent example of resource management. As I said before, yes, there are more complex games out there. Yes, there are more deep games out there. Yes, there are other examples, for example, like Stone Age, for example, is making a great similar game. But this for us was revolutionary because we love fantasy games in our house, we love worker placement games, and we love resource management games. And for us, this was a massive step forward in terms of that. The base game, utterly wonderful. The expansion pack adds a lot of welcome diversity, and it really gives more and more options to play. Whether we basically play as a family, whether we basically play myself and my wife, there is loads here to enjoy. In terms of positives, you've got great artwork, you've got lots of options to play, you've got a whole massive realm to enjoy. If you're interested in the D&D realm, then there's so much there. In terms of negatives, if any, the one thing that it does suffer from is, for example, if you have a move planned out and someone else takes that move, you will need to adjust to strategy on the fly. So it's worth having 2 or 3 different options that you might choose for your turn. And I say, if you've got 2 or 3 different quests on the go at a time, that's absolutely fine, because you'll be collecting things for multiple different opportunities. So if, for example, you really, really wanted to go to Blackstaff Tower and collect the mage and somebody blocked you that turn, well, maybe this is a turn where you collect some gold, or this is a turn where you basically look at the quests that are available. So there are lots of different options to play, and you will come back to this game again and again and again. It is a big, massive game. It will take the whole evening as well as the whole of your table, but it will give you so much enjoyment and so much pleasure with your gaming group. I would thoroughly recommend buying Lords of Waterdeep, definitely, and having it in your life. If you have other similar games as well, it is still a welcome collection to your table. So if you like sort of more high risk, high reward games, if you prefer to be a little bit sneaky, then yes, Scoundrel Skullport is a very, very good buy as well, but you can get by perfectly well with the base game as it is. So whether you like domesticating owlbears or raiding temples or basically overthrowing cults or just basically fighting enormous beasts, there is a lot here to enjoy. Now, in terms of what this has meant to us, this is basically kind of like our big finale for season 1. I'm going to try and do a bigger, amazing game at the end of each season. So basically episode 20, episode 30, I've already got things planned out. But please, if you've enjoyed these first few episodes, come back, see us for season 2, which will be episodes 11 to 20. See the more different kind of games we've got on offer. If there's a particular type of game that you'd like us to review, let us know. If you want more card games, if you want more dice games, if you want more resource management games, please let us know. Give us comments. Please do subscribe. Please follow us. Please basically contact us on social media. We would love to hear from you. I know we're very, very new to this game. I know we're basically very, very new to the whole idea of reviews, but please, we'd love your support. We'd love your encouragement and your advice. So thank you for joining us for season 1 of Rogue Reviews. Please do get in contact. You can find us at rogueartistcreations.com. You can find us on Facebook at Rogue Artist Creations, and please do follow us and like us. Our Twitter handle is at RogueACreations, and you can reach me at gmfirst@rogueartistcreations.com. Thank you very, very much for joining us. We hope this has been a little window of joy and happiness into your lives, and we will see you again soon. Thank you.